The champagne cork hit our bedroom ceiling at exactly 11:47 p.m., and my wife Jessica wasn't home to hear it. I'd been promoted to Senior Director of Operations at Westfield Technologies, the position I'd been grinding toward for 6 years. My boss called at noon, and I spent the rest of Friday afternoon in a daze of disbelief and joy. The salary bump would finally let us move out of our cramped townhouse. Maybe start the family we'd been postponing. At 34, Jessica and I had been married for 8 years, together for 12. This felt like our moment. I texted her immediately. "Got the promotion. Let's celebrate tonight." Her response came 20 minutes later. "OMG, that's amazing, babe. Working late on the Riverside project. Don't wait up. Celebrate tomorrow? Love you." Disappointment stung, but I understood. Jessica worked as a project manager at Brennan Architecture, and the Riverside development was their biggest contract in years. She'd been putting in 60-hour weeks for the past 2 months. I told myself one more night wouldn't matter. I picked up her favorite Thai food anyway, set the table with candles, chilled the champagne. By 9 o'clock, the curry had congealed. By 10, I'd eaten alone and put everything away. By 11, I was in bed, scrolling through my phone, when I decided to pop that champagne cork anyway. A private celebration. I'd earned this. The golden liquid fizzed into my glass. I raised it to the empty room. "To us," I said to nobody. That's when I noticed Jessica's iPad on her nightstand, the screen glowing with a notification. We'd always had each other's passwords. Complete transparency. That was our thing. "Nothing to hide," Jessica used to say, letting me scroll through her phone whenever I wanted. I did the same. It was a point of pride in our marriage, something we held over other couples who kept their devices locked down like nuclear codes. The notification preview showed a text from RB, a name I didn't recognize. "Can't wait to see you tomorrow. Tonight was incredible." My stomach dropped like I'd missed a step in the dark. I picked up the iPad. No passcode needed. We trusted each other. The message thread opened and my new salary suddenly felt meaningless. RB. "You're amazing. I can't stop thinking about you." Jessica. "Same. This is crazy." RB. "Crazy good. Your husband still clueless?" Jessica. "Yes. Working late again tomorrow. We'll have the whole evening." The messages went back weeks. Dozens of them. Hundreds, maybe. I scrolled up with shaking hands, watching my marriage disintegrate with each swipe. Photos appeared. Jessica in lingerie I'd never seen. Jessica in what looked like a hotel room. Jessica with a man whose face I now recognize from her company directory. Robert Brennan. Her boss. The Robert Brennan, 52 years old, married with 3 kids, whose wife Amanda I'd met at the company Christmas party just 4 months ago. I sat on the edge of our bed, the bed we'd picked out together at IKEA, assembled while drinking wine and laughing about the incomprehensible instructions, and felt reality split in two. There was the world from 5 minutes ago, where I had a wife and a promotion and a future. And there was this world where everything I thought I knew was performance art. My hands moved on autopilot. I forwarded the entire message thread to my email. Screenshots of every photo, every text, every casual mention of their meetings while I worked late myself, trusting her completely. The iPad's camera roll revealed more. Dozens of photos she'd taken in bathroom mirrors, dressing room selfies with captions like, "For later," that had never been sent to me. I checked the timestamps. Last Tuesday, when she said she had a migraine and went to bed early, she'd been texting him until 2 a.m. The Saturday 2 weeks ago when she went to visit her sister in Portland, her location history showed she never left the city. The morning of our 8th anniversary, she'd sent him a photo with the caption, "Wish I was waking up next to you." The champagne sat untouched, going flat. I heard her car in the driveway at 12:15 a.m. The front door opened. Her heels clicked across the hardwood floor we'd refinanced the house to install. "Babe," she called out. You still up? I looked at myself in the dresser mirror. Same face, same body, but I felt like a stranger had taken up residence in my skin. Some part of me wanted to confront her immediately, to watch her face when she realized I knew. Another part, the part that had spent 12 years learning her patterns, her tells, her lies, knew better. In here, I called back, my voice steady. I locked the iPad screen and set it back on her nightstand. Jessica appeared in the doorway, still in her work clothes, makeup perfect, not a hair out of place. She smiled at me, that same smile I'd fallen in love with in college, when she was a sophomore and I was a junior, and we'd stayed up all night talking about our dreams. Sorry I'm so late, she said, kicking off her heels. Robert wanted to go over the renderings again. You know how he is. I do now, I thought. Congratulations on the promotion, she continued, walking over to kiss my cheek. She smelled like cologne that wasn't mine. I'm so proud of you. I let her kiss me, let her change into her pajamas, let her climb into bed beside me and curl up against my shoulder like she had 1,000 nights before. Love you, she whispered, already half asleep. I stared at the ceiling, listening to her breathing even out, and began planning. The alarm went off at 6:30. I'd been awake for hours. Jessica stirred beside me, her hand finding my shoulder. Morning, she mumbled, voice thick with sleep. The same voice that had whispered lies into her phone while I worked 60-hour weeks to make senior director. Morning. I kept my tone neutral. Easy. She rolled out of bed, padding to the bathroom. I heard the shower start. The same routine we'd followed for 12 years. I grabbed my phone and opened my personal email. The forwarded messages sat there. Time-stamped 12:47 a.m. 43 screenshots. Location data. Calendar entries showing late Riverside. On nights, her phone placed her at the Marriott downtown. I'd already created a new folder. Labeled it Tax Documents 2019. The shower shut off. I switched to my work email, scrolling through congratulations from colleagues about the promotion. Vice President of Operations wanted to schedule lunch next week. The irony wasn't lost on me. The biggest achievement of my career, and I couldn't feel anything but the weight of those screenshots. Jessica emerged in her robe, hair wrapped in a towel. You want coffee? I can make some before I go. I'm good. Early meeting. She nodded, moving to her closet. I watched her select a gray dress I'd never seen. Probably bought it with him. For him. What time will you be home tonight? I asked. Should be normal. 6:30, maybe 7. She applied mascara in the dresser mirror, the same face that smiled at Robert Brennan in bathroom selfies. We're wrapping up the Riverside renderings today. There it was. Another lie, smooth as silk. According to her calendar, Riverside had been complete for 3 weeks. Tonight's entry read, RB6Y, usual. Sounds good. I'll pick up dinner. She kissed my cheek on her way out. Her perfume, Chanel No. 5, the bottle I'd bought her for Christmas, lingered after the front door closed. I sat on the edge of our IKEA bed and opened my laptop. By 8 a.m., I was at my desk at Westfield. The new title hadn't even updated on my door placard yet. I closed my office door and made 3 calls. First, Kenneth Price, the divorce attorney whose name I'd found through a discreet Google search at 3 a.m. His assistant scheduled me for Friday at 2 p.m. Initial consultation, she said. Bring any relevant documentation. I had documentation. Second, Dr. Raymond Foster, a therapist specializing in infidelity trauma. His receptionist offered an appointment next Tuesday. I took it, though I wasn't sure I'd need it. I didn't feel traumatized. I felt cold. Focused. Third, I called my bank and opened a separate checking account. Online access only. Statements to my work email. Then I went to my morning meeting and discussed Q4 projections like nothing had changed. Jessica texted at noon. Hope your first day as senior director is amazing. So proud of you. I stared at the heart emoji. She'd sent the same one to Robert last Tuesday. Can't wait to see you tonight. Tell Amanda you're working late again? I typed back. Thanks. Busy day. Love you. The lies came easier than I expected. At 1 p.m., I did something I'd never done in 12 years together. I created a fake Instagram account, random username, stock photo of a golden retriever as the profile picture, and searched for Robert Brennan. Found him in 3 clicks. Private account, but his wife Amanda's was public. 51 years old according to her bio. Her recent posts showed family dinners, their daughter's college graduation last month, a vacation to Cape Cod in July. In one photo, Robert had his arm around her waist, smiling at the camera like a man who didn't spend Tuesday and Thursday nights at the Marriott downtown. I scrolled back further. June 14th. Celebrating 28 years with my best friend. A photo of them at some upscale restaurant, champagne glasses raised. June 14th. I checked Jessica's calendar. Late, client dinner. 28 years of marriage, 3 kids. And he'd asked Jessica if her husband was still clueless while his wife posted anniversary tributes. I took screenshots of Amanda's posts, added them to the folder. Jessica called at 5:47 p.m. Hey, bad news. Robert needs me to stay late. The client wants revisions on the Riverside presentation. I was in my car, parked outside Brennan Architecture's office building downtown. I'd left work at 5:15, telling my assistant I had a headache. How late? I asked. Probably 8 or 9. Don't wait up for dinner. Through the lobby's glass doors, I could see the elevator bank. No problem. I'll order something. You're the best. Love you. Love you too. I hung up and waited. At 6:04 p.m., Robert Brennan emerged from the elevator. Gray suit, loosened tie. He walked past the security desk and out the front entrance, turning left toward the parking garage. At 6:11 p.m., Jessica followed. Black coat I'd never seen, heels clicking on the marble floor. She checked her phone, smiled at something, and headed in the same direction. I gave them a 3-minute head start, then pulled out of my spot and drove to the Marriott 6 blocks away. Robert's silver Lexus was already in the lot. Level 2, near the elevator. I parked on level 3 and walked down the stairwell, positioning myself behind a concrete pillar with a clear view. Jessica's Honda pulled in at 6:29 p.m. She parked 3 spots from the Lexus, checked her makeup in the rearview mirror, and walked to the elevator. I took photos. License plates visible, timestamps automatic, location services enabled. Then I sat in my car and waited. They emerged at 8:43 p.m. I'd been parked there for 2 hours and 14 minutes, listening to a podcast about financial planning I couldn't focus on. Robert came out first, jacket over his arm. Jessica followed 2 minutes later, hair slightly mussed, reapplying lipstick as she walked. They didn't acknowledge each other in the parking lot. Professional distance maintained. I took more photos. Jessica's car pulled out at 8:47 p.m. I waited until Robert left at 8:51 p.m. before starting my engine. I was home by 9:15 p.m., ordered Thai food, ate it alone at our kitchen table, the same table where we'd shared breakfast that morning while she planned her evening with him. She texted at 9:33 p.m. Finally done. Heading home now. So exhausted. I replied, drive safe. She walked in at 9:58 p.m., exactly the amount of time it took to drive from the Marriott to our townhouse. God, what a night, she said, dropping her bag on the counter. Robert's so demanding about these presentations. I bet he was. There's leftover pad thai if you're hungry. I grabbed something at the office. Another lie. I'd watched the office building's lights. 4th floor, Brennan Architecture, had gone dark at 6:30 p.m. She kicked off her heels, the same ones that had clicked across the Marriott parking lot. I'm going to shower and crash. Tomorrow's going to be just as brutal. I checked her calendar while she was in the bathroom. Tomorrow. RB6/usual. The shower ran for 15 minutes. When she came out, she smelled like hotel soap, not the lavender body wash in our bathroom. You okay? She asked, climbing into bed. You seem quiet. Just tired, big week. She kissed my shoulder. I'm sorry I've been so busy. This project is killing me. But after Riverside wraps, I promise we'll celebrate your promotion properly. Maybe that weekend trip to Vermont you mentioned? Vermont, the place we'd talked about visiting for our anniversary, the anniversary she'd spent with Robert while telling me she had a migraine. Sure, I said. Vermont sounds great. She fell asleep within minutes, her breathing evening out into the rhythm I'd known for 12 years. I lay awake, phone in hand, scrolling through the photos from tonight. Jessica's car, Robert's car, timestamps, location data, the Marriott's lit windows. Friday, I'd meet with Kenneth Price. I'd bring printed copies of everything, the messages, the calendar, the location data, tonight's photos, the financial records I'd started compiling. I'd ask about asset division, about New York's equitable distribution laws, about whether her affair with her boss constituted grounds for a fault-based divorce. But tomorrow was Thursday. According to her calendar, RB 6/usual. I set my alarm for 5:30 a.m. and added one more item to my to-do list. Buy a book. Something literary, impressive. The kind of book someone might bring to a book club. Because an idea was forming, cold and precise as the screenshots in my tax documents folder. If Jessica wanted to read, I'd give her something worth studying. The bookstore on Amsterdam Avenue had the kind of worn wooden floors that creaked with literary authority. I'd walked past it 1,000 times on my way to the subway, never once going inside. Now, standing in the doorway at 6:47 p.m. on Thursday, I understood why people called these places sanctuaries. Can I help you find something? The clerk was maybe 25, nose ring, NYU hoodie. Book club recommendations, I said. Something popular right now. She brightened. Oh, we have a whole section. Are you joining a club or starting one? My wife's in one. Thought I'd get into reading. The lie came easily now. I'd been practicing all week. She led me to a display table near the back. These are our top picks. The Marriage Plot is popular with clubs. Gone Girl, obviously. The Silent Patient if you like thrillers. I picked up Gone Girl. The cover showed a woman's face, half in shadow. This one's about a missing wife, right? Yeah, but it's more complicated than that. Lots of twists. The husband's perspective is really interesting. I bet it is. I bought 3 copies. Jessica's book club met every other Wednesday at Rotating Homes. I knew this because she'd mentioned it exactly twice in 8 years, both times when she needed me to pick up dry cleaning because she'd be running late from book club. I'd nodded, said sure, never questioned it. Her iPad calendar had the details. Next meeting, Wednesday, 7 p.m. at Diane Fletcher's brownstone in Park Slope. The entry included an address, a note about bringing wine, and the book title, The Nightingale. I'd never heard Jessica mention Diane Fletcher. Never heard her mention any of the book club members, actually. But her calendar had entries going back 18 months. Every other Wednesday, different addresses, different hostesses. The meetings that coincided with her late nights at the office were marked with a small flower emoji. 12 flower emojis in 18 months. I sat at my desk Friday afternoon, staring at the pattern. The attorney meeting was in 2 hours. I had my evidence organized in a folder. Printed messages, bank statements showing hotel charges, photos from the Marriott, location history. Everything neat and chronological. But I kept thinking about those flower emojis. Your documentation is thorough, Attorney Philip Warren said, reviewing the folder. He was 50-something, gray suit, office in Midtown with a view of nothing. New York is a no-fault state, so the affair itself won't impact the divorce settlement. But this helps establish a pattern of deception that could be relevant for other aspects. Other aspects, I repeated. Asset division, primarily. If she's been spending marital funds on the affair, that could be considered dissipation of assets. He flipped through the hotel receipts. These are all on her credit card? Joint account. Technically my card, too. Good. That strengthens the dissipation argument. He made a note. How do you want to proceed? We can file immediately, or you can take time to… I need 2 weeks. He looked up. For what? Personal reasons. Warren studied me for a moment. Mr. Hayes, I've been doing this for 23 years. When clients ask for delays to handle personal reasons, it usually means they're planning something inadvisable. I'm not planning anything illegal. That's a very specific denial. He closed the folder. 2 weeks puts us at the end of March. What happens then? I'll be ready to file. He sighed. Fine. But understand that any actions you take between now and filing could complicate proceedings. Don't drain bank accounts, don't destroy property, don't… I know what not to do. Do you? He leaned back in his chair. Because in my experience, betrayed spouses think they know, right up until they do something that costs them in court. I stood. Thank you for your time. Mr. Hayes. He didn't stand. Whatever you're planning, ask yourself if it's worth it. I left without answering. Saturday morning, I went to a garden center in Queens, the kind of place with rows of greenhouses and workers who actually knew about plants instead of just scanning barcodes. Looking for anything specific? The woman wore dirt-stained gloves and had the leathered skin of someone who worked outdoors. Poison oak, I said. For identification purposes. I think I might have some in my yard. She frowned. You're not likely to find poison oak around here. Poison ivy, sure, but poison oak is more West Coast. What about something similar? Something that causes a rash? Her frown deepened. Why would you want that? Educational purposes. I pulled out my phone, showed her a photo I'd found online. Something that looks innocuous but causes contact dermatitis. You planning to hurt someone? No. I'm planning to teach someone about consequences. She stared at me for a long moment. I can't sell you anything like that. Try a different store. I tried 3 different stores. Got the same response at each one. Sunday evening, Jessica came home from grocery shopping at 8:30 p.m. with 2 bags from Whole Foods and lipstick slightly smudged at one corner. How was your day? She asked, setting the bags on the counter. Quiet. Worked on some reports. I was chopping vegetables for a stir-fry, keeping my hands busy. How was shopping? Crowded. Everyone had the same idea. She started unpacking. Organic kale, artisanal cheese, a bottle of Pinot Grigio. Oh, book club is Wednesday. I'll probably be home around 10. What are you reading? She paused, hand on the wine bottle. What? The book. For book club. Oh. The Nightingale. It's about World War II. 2 sisters in France. Sounds interesting. How far are you? About halfway. It's really good. She put the wine in the fridge. Why the sudden interest? Just curious. You don't talk about it much. There's not much to talk about. We read, we discuss, we drink wine. She smiled. Pretty standard book club stuff. Who's hosting this week? Another pause, shorter this time. Diane, you don't know her. Diane Fletcher. Her smile froze. How did you… You mentioned her once. Last month, I think. I hadn't. She hadn't. But I watched her face rearrange itself around the lie. Right. Yeah, Diane Fletcher. She has that brownstone in Park Slope. The one with the garden? Yes. She was looking at me now, really looking. Why are you asking about this? No reason, just making conversation. I scraped the vegetables into the pan. They hissed against the hot oil. Want to stay for dinner? I ate already. At the store, they had samples. Of course she had. Monday, I called in sick to work. First sick day in 3 years. Then I took the subway to Park Slope. Diane Fletcher's brownstone was on a tree-lined street where every building looked like it cost $3 million. The front garden was small but meticulously maintained. Early spring flowers, trimmed hedges, a wrought iron fence. I stood across the street for 20 minutes, just watching. At 10:15, a woman came out the front door. Late 40s, yoga pants, canvas tote bag. She locked the door, walked to the corner, disappeared. The garden had crocuses, purple and white, clustered near the fence. Also some kind of flowering shrub I didn't recognize, and what might have been early tulips. I took photos. Close-ups of each flower type, wide shots of the overall layout. A man walking his dog gave me a suspicious look, so I pretended to be photographing the architecture. At 11:30, I went to a coffee shop 3 blocks away and searched for pressed flower bookmarks on my phone. The results showed dozens of tutorials, craft blogs, Instagram posts of flowers pressed between wax paper and heavy books. Some of the posts included information about pollen analysis. Apparently, you could identify not just the flower type, but sometimes the specific plant, depending on pollen preservation and analytical tools. I downloaded an app called Pollen ID. Free version, limited features, but enough to identify common flower species from photos. Then I went back to the bookstore on Amsterdam Avenue. Back again? The clerk with the nose ring smiled. How's gone, girl? Haven't started yet. I need something else first. I showed her a photo on my phone, a pressed flower bookmark I'd found on Etsy. Do you sell these? Not commercially, but some of our staff make them. Custom orders sometimes. She leaned closer to look at the photo. That's pretty. Looks like a crocus. Could you make one? I'd pay extra. For yourself? A gift for my wife. She loves flowers. The clerk's expression softened. That's sweet. What kind of flowers? I showed her the photos from Diane Fletcher's garden. Something like these. Purple crocuses, maybe some of that white flowering shrub. I'd have to source the flowers. It might take a few days. I need it by Wednesday morning. She hesitated. That's tight, and I'd have to press them, which usually takes at least a week for proper drying. What if you accelerated the process? Iron, maybe, or that can damage the petals. The color won't be as good. I don't need it to be perfect, just recognizable. I pulled out my wallet. I'll pay $100. Her eyes widened. For a bookmark? For a bookmark by Wednesday morning. She looked at the photos again, then at me. Okay, but I can't guarantee the quality. That's fine. I gave her my number and left. The bookmark arrived Wednesday morning in a small cardboard mailer, cushioned with tissue paper. I opened it at my desk between meetings, careful not to damage the delicate pressed flowers sealed between 2 thin sheets of archival plastic. The florist had done excellent work. 3 blooms from Diane Fletcher's garden, their petals still vibrant despite being flattened and preserved. Purple salvia, white hydrangea, and a yellow coreopsis. Exactly what I'd photographed growing in her window boxes. I held it up to the light. Professional quality. The kind of bookmark that would make any book lover smile. I slipped it back into the mailer and locked it in my desk drawer. That evening, Jessica came home at 6:30 with her book club selection tucked under one arm, a hardcover copy of The Marriage Plot by Jeffrey Eugenides. She set it on the kitchen counter while she poured herself a glass of wine. Book club's tomorrow night, she said, not looking at me. Diane's hosting again. Same Diane as last time? I asked, chopping vegetables for dinner. Yeah, she always hosts the second Thursday. Jessica scrolled through her phone. I'll probably be back around 10. What's the book about? She glanced up, surprised I'd asked. College students in the 80s. Love triangle. It's supposed to be really literary. Sounds interesting. It's okay so far. She took a sip of wine, kinda slow. I watched her carry the book upstairs to our bedroom, heard her moving around up there. When she came back down 20 minutes later for dinner, the book wasn't with her. After she fell asleep that night, I found it on her nightstand. She'd made it to page 47, marked with a CVS receipt. I photographed the page number, then carefully replaced the receipt exactly where she'd left it. Thursday morning, I called in sick to work. Jessica left at 8:15, kissing my forehead and telling me to rest, to drink plenty of fluids. The front door clicked shut. Her car started in the driveway. I waited 5 minutes, then got dressed. The locksmith arrived at 9:30. I'd found him on Yelp, a small operation, cash only, no questions asked. He made me a copy of Jessica's car key in under 10 minutes, working from the spare I'd taken from her purse. $60. I tipped him 20. By 10, I was parked 3 blocks from Diane Fletcher's brownstone with the pressed flower bookmark in my jacket pocket. The neighborhood was quiet. Tree-lined streets, expensive cars, the kind of area where people worked from home or didn't work at all. I'd walked this block twice during my previous surveillance. I knew Diane's schedule, yoga at 11 on Thursdays, back by 12:30. Her husband worked in finance, left the house at 7 every morning, returned after 6. At 10:47, Diane emerged in yoga pants and a North Face jacket, mat tucked under her arm. She walked to the corner and turned left toward the studio I'd already looked up online. I gave her 5 minutes, then approached the brownstone. The gate to her front garden wasn't locked. I slipped through, moved quickly to the window boxes where I'd photographed the flowers. The blooms looked exactly as they had in my photos. Same purple salvia, same white hydrangea, same yellow coreopsis. I touched one of the petals, felt the soft texture, the slight dampness from morning dew. Then I returned to my car and waited. Diane came back at 12:34, showered and changed. She didn't leave again. At 6:15 that evening, I watched from my usual spot as book club members began arriving. I recognized most of them from previous surveillance, women in their 30s and 40s carrying wine bottles and covered dishes. Jessica pulled up at 6:42, parked across the street, checked her makeup in the rearview mirror before getting out. She was wearing the black dress, the one I'd bought her for our anniversary 2 years ago. I photographed her walking up to Diane's door, photographed her being greeted with a hug, photographed her disappearing inside with her book and a bottle of red wine. Then I drove home and waited. She texted at 7:30. Great discussion so far, might run a little late. I responded, no problem, feel better? Took some Tylenol. At 9:15, I received a photo in our shared album. Jessica and 5 other women arranged on Diane's couch, wine glasses raised, books in hand, everyone smiling. The caption read, Book Club. I studied each face. Diane Fletcher in the center, hostess smile firmly in place. Jessica on the left end, that same smile from college, the one that used to make my chest tight. I zoomed in on the background details. Diane's living room, bookshelves floor to ceiling, a fireplace, tasteful art. The kind of room that appeared in home design magazines. At 10:03, Jessica texted, heading out soon, want me to pick up anything? I'm good, drive safe. She came through the door at 10:47, heels clicking on the hardwood, cheeks flushed from wine. She found me on the couch with my laptop. Hey, she dropped her purse on the chair. How are you feeling? Better. How was book club? Really good. We had this intense debate about whether the main character actually loves either of the guys or if she's just performing what she thinks love should look like. She kicked off her heels. Diane made this amazing bruschetta. Sounds like fun. It was. She headed toward the stairs. I'm exhausted, though. Going to shower and crash. I listened to the water run upstairs. Listened to her moving around the bathroom. When she finally got into bed, I waited another 30 minutes before following. She was already asleep, or pretending to be. I lay in the darkness, staring at the ceiling, running through the plan one more time. Every detail, every contingency. The bookmark in my desk drawer downstairs. The copy of Jessica's car key in my wallet. The pollen identification app I'd downloaded to my phone. The timeline I'd constructed from her calendar patterns. Friday morning, I went to work. Normal day, normal meetings, normal conversations with colleagues who had no idea what I was planning. Saturday, Jessica slept late. I made breakfast, brought her coffee in bed, kissed her forehead. We spent the afternoon running errands, grocery store, dry cleaner, Target, the mundane rhythm of married life. She held my hand in the car. I squeezed back. Sunday, we had brunch with my parents. My mother asked about Jessica's work, about the big project she'd mentioned last month. Jessica smiled and said it was going well, that her boss was pleased with her progress. My father talked about their upcoming trip to Florida. Everyone laughed at appropriate moments. I watched Jessica across the table, animated and charming, telling a story about a difficult client. Same face, same voice, same woman I'd known for 12 years. A stranger. Monday morning, I called Kenneth Price. I need to move forward, I said. Can we meet today? I have an opening at 4. I'll be there. His office looked the same as before. Dark wood, leather chairs, wall of law books. He gestured for me to sit. You said you needed 2 weeks, he said. It's been exactly that. I know. I pulled out my phone, opened the folder where I'd stored everything. I have additional documentation. I showed him the surveillance photos from the Marriott, the text messages I'd forwarded from Jessica's iPad, the location data showing her repeated visits to Robert Brennan's neighborhood, the credit card statements with charges at hotels and restaurants on nights she'd claimed to be working late or visiting her sister. Kenneth took notes, his expression neutral. This is comprehensive, he said finally. Very thorough. There's one more thing. I pulled up the photo from Thursday night's book club. I need to verify something before we file. Verify what? Whether her book club is legitimate or another cover story. He studied the photo. What makes you think it isn't legitimate? Pattern recognition. Some meetings have flower emojis in her calendar, others don't. I need to understand what that means. And how do you plan to verify this? I met his eyes. I'd rather not say. Kenneth set down his pen. Mr. He caught himself. We'd agreed he'd call me by my first name. I need to be very clear about something. Whatever you're planning, if it involves illegal activity, I cannot be party to it. I cannot advise you on it. And if it compromises your divorce case, I cannot help you. I understand. Do you? He leaned forward. Because in my experience, when clients start talking about verification and pattern recognition and refuse to explain their methods, they're about to do something inadvisable. I'm not going to hurt anyone. That's not what I'm concerned about. He tapped the folder of evidence. You have everything you need here. Adultery, financial misconduct, a clear pattern of deception. New York is a no-fault state, but this documentation will help with asset division and potentially alimony. You don't need anything else. I need to know the truth. You already know the truth. Your wife is having an affair with her boss. You have proof. What more do you need? I stood up. Thank you for your time. I'll call you next week about filing. Wait. Kenneth stood too. Whatever you're planning, think very carefully about the consequences. Not just legal consequences, personal ones. The satisfaction of revenge is temporary. The damage is permanent. I'll keep that in mind. I left his office and drove home, the pressed flower bookmark still locked in my desk drawer, waiting. The pressed flower bookmark arrived on a Tuesday afternoon, delivered in a small cream-colored envelope. I'd paid extra for the expedited service, $200 to have a botanical artist in Brooklyn create what looked like a naturally pressed specimen. She'd matched the photo I'd sent perfectly. Delicate purple lobelia, white sweet alyssum, and a single stem of Russian sage, all flowers I'd photographed in Diane Fletcher's Park Slope garden during my reconnaissance. The artist had even aged the pressing slightly, giving it the authentic look of something that had been tucked between pages for weeks rather than days. I held it up to the light in my office at Westfield Technologies. The flowers were translucent, their cellular structure visible through the thin petals. Perfect. I slipped it into my briefcase next to the copy of Jessica's car key. That evening, Jessica came home at 7:30, right on schedule. No book club tonight. Those were Thursdays. She kissed my cheek in the kitchen, the same perfume I'd smelled for 12 years, and asked about my day. Same as always, I said. You? Exhausting. Robert has us working on the Dumbo project renderings until midnight most nights. I nodded, stirring the pasta I'd made for dinner. Robert. She said his name so casually now, like he was just another colleague. I wondered if she got a thrill from it, speaking about him in our kitchen while I stood 3 feet away. Book club tomorrow? I asked. She pulled her phone out, checking her calendar with a small frown. Yeah, 7 o'clock. We're discussing The Age of Innocence this week. I haven't even finished it yet. I'd already known that. I'd checked her Kindle account 2 days ago and seen she was only 63% through the novel. The irony of the title wasn't lost on me. You should finish it tonight, I said. I'll clean up dinner. She smiled at me, grateful, affectionate. You're the best. I don't know what I'd do without you. Me neither, I said. Thursday arrived with rain that turned the city streets into mirrors of brake lights and neon. Jessica left for Diane Fletcher's townhouse at 6:45, carrying her worn copy of The Age of Innocence in her leather tote bag. I watched from the window as she got into her Civic and pulled away from the curb. I waited 15 minutes, then took my own car, the 10-year-old Accord I kept for errands, and drove to Park Slope. I parked 2 blocks from Diane's address, on a side street with enough shadows to make me invisible. The book club met in Diane's parlor floor living room. I could see them through the bay windows, 6 women arranged on cream-colored furniture, wine glasses catching the lamplight. Jessica sat on the far end of the sofa, animated, laughing at something another woman had said. She looked happy, relaxed. I'd brought Jessica's spare car key, the one I'd copied. Her Civic sat at the curb directly in front of Diane's brownstone, locked and dark. At 8:30, I walked past the car once, casual, just another pedestrian in the rain. No one looked out the windows. I circled the block and came back, pressing the key fob. The Civic's locks disengaged with a soft click. I opened the passenger door and slid inside, pulling it shut quietly behind me. The interior smelled like Jessica's perfume and the vanilla air freshener she kept clipped to the vent. Her book sat on the passenger seat where she'd left it, a receipt marking her place about 3/4 through. I opened The Age of Innocence to page 247, where Newland Archer contemplates the impossibility of his situation. I placed the pressed flower bookmark there, the purple lobelia and white alyssum arranged in a delicate spray against the cream paper backing. Then I took out my phone and opened the pollen identification app I'd downloaded last week. I'd tested it already. It could analyze flower specimens through the camera and provide detailed botanical information, including freshness indicators based on pollen degradation. I photographed the bookmark in place, the app's interface framing the flowers against the text. The analysis took 30 seconds. Lobelia aerinus, edging lobelia. Lobularia maridima, sweet alyssum. Perovskia atriplycifolia, Russian sage. Pollen degradation consistent with pressing within 7 to 10 days. Specimens fresh, recently harvested. I took 3 more photos from different angles, making sure the page number was visible in each shot. Then I carefully closed the book, leaving the bookmark in place, and set it back on the passenger seat exactly as I'd found it. I was back in my car 2 blocks away within 4 minutes. Jessica came home at 10:15, later than usual. I was in bed with my laptop, pretending to review quarterly reports. "How was book club?" I asked. "Good. Diane served this amazing fig and goat cheese appetizer. I got the recipe." She set her tote bag on the dresser and started undressing. We had a really interesting discussion about Newland's moral paralysis, whether he was noble or just a coward. "What do you think?" She paused, considering it while she hung up her blouse. "I think he was scared. Scared of what choosing Ellen would mean. Scared of losing everything he'd built. So a coward? Maybe. Or maybe just human." She disappeared into the bathroom. I heard the water running, her nighttime routine beginning. I waited. Friday morning, Jessica couldn't find her bookmark. I was making coffee when I heard her in the living room, going through her tote bag with increasing frustration. "That's so weird," she muttered. "What's wrong?" I called from the kitchen. "I had this bookmark, just a scrap of paper, but I had my place marked. Now I can't find it." "Maybe it fell out in the car?" "Maybe." She grabbed her keys from the hook by the door. "I'll check before I leave for work." I poured my coffee slowly, listening. The front door opened and closed. 30 seconds passed. A minute. Then she came back inside, and I heard it in her footsteps. Something different. Hesitant. "Find it?" I asked, not turning around. "Yeah." Her voice sounded strange. Careful. "It was in the book. I must have put it there and forgotten." I turned to look at her. She was standing in the doorway holding The Age of Innocence, staring at the pressed flower bookmark between her fingers. Her face had gone pale. "Pretty?" I said. "Where'd you get it?" I don't remember." She was studying the flowers like they were evidence at a crime scene, which, in a way, they were. "I think maybe someone at book club must have given it to me." "That's nice of them." She looked up at me, and I saw it. The first flicker of real fear. She was doing the math, trying to figure out how the bookmark had gotten into her book. Trying to remember if Diane had given it to her, or one of the other women, knowing that none of them had. "Jessica," I said, keeping my voice level. "Is there something you want to tell me?" "What?" "No. Why would you?" She trailed off, still holding the bookmark. The purple lobelia trembled slightly in her hand. I pulled out my phone and opened the pollen analysis app, showing her the photos I'd taken. Page 247 of her book. The pressed flowers. The botanical analysis with its timestamp from last night at 8:47 p.m. "These flowers," I said quietly, "match the ones in Diane Fletcher's garden. The pollen analysis confirms they were pressed within the last week, and this photo was taken while you were inside her house last night." The color drained completely from her face. "I don't understand," she whispered. "How did you?" "I made a copy of your car key 2 weeks ago," I said. "I've been documenting everything, Jessica. The meetings with Robert at the Marriott, the texts on your iPad, the location data, and now this." She sank into the chair by the door, still holding the bookmark. "Why would you put this in my book?" "Because I wanted you to know that I know. About the affair, about the lies, about all of it." I set my coffee down. "And I wanted you to feel what I felt when I found those messages. That moment when your whole world shifts and nothing makes sense anymore." Her hands were shaking. The book club is real, as far as I know. But the flower emoji meetings? I'm still figuring those out. She looked up at me with tears starting to form. Please, let me explain. There's nothing to explain. I've already filed for divorce. My attorney has everything. Screenshots, photos, location data, financial records. You'll be served next week. You can't. I already did. I picked up my briefcase. I'm staying at a hotel until this is settled. The lease is in both our names, so you can stay here if you want. Or not. I don't really care anymore. I walked past her to the door, and she grabbed my arm. Please, she said. Just talk to me. We can fix this. I looked down at her hand on my sleeve, then at her face. The same face I'd loved for 12 years. Same eyes, same mouth. A stranger wearing my wife's features. No, I said. We really can't. I pulled my arm free and walked out into the morning rain, leaving her sitting in our doorway with pressed flowers from a garden she'd visited, evidence of a surveillance she'd never suspected, and the ruins of a marriage she'd destroyed. The revenge was just beginning. The first thing I did after walking out was drive to a 24-hour FedEx office in Midtown. I'd already prepared the package days ago, printed copies of every screenshot, every location ping, every credit card receipt. 2 complete sets. One for Amanda Brennan at her home address in Scarsdale. One for the managing partners at Brennan Architecture. The clerk, a college kid with headphones around his neck, barely looked up as I paid for overnight delivery. Both packages. I watched him scan the labels, watch them disappear into the sorting bin. 11:47 p.m. on a Thursday night. Amanda Brennan would open hers over morning coffee. The managing partners would find theirs when they arrived at the office. I drove to the Courtyard Marriott in Midtown where I'd booked a room for the next 2 weeks. Not the same Marriott where I'd photographed them. I wasn't that twisted. A different one, anonymous and clean, where nobody knew my name or cared why I was checking in with a single duffel bag at midnight. The room was identical to 10,000 other hotel rooms. Beige walls. Abstract art that meant nothing. A desk with a chair that would wreck my back if I sat too long. I set my laptop on the desk, my phone beside it, and lay on the bed fully clothed. I didn't sleep. At 6:23 a.m., my phone rang. Jessica. I declined the call. She called again at 6:25. Declined. A text at 6:27. Where are you? 6:29. We need to talk about this. 6:31. You can't just leave. 6:35. I know you're reading these. I wasn't reading them. The notifications appeared on my lock screen, but I didn't open them. I wanted her to see delivered instead of read. I wanted her to know I was seeing her messages and choosing not to respond. At 7:15 a.m., she called from the townhouse landline. We still had a landline because Jessica insisted we needed it for emergencies. I declined that call too. At 8:30 a.m., my phone buzzed with an email notification. The subject line read, Book Club, April, meeting canceled. I opened it. Dear Book Club members, due to unforeseen personal circumstances, I need to cancel our April meeting. I'll be in touch about rescheduling. Best, Diane. I stared at the message, sent at 8:22 a.m. to the full book club distribution list. 8 women, including Jessica. My phone rang again. Not Jessica this time, Kenneth Price. Morning, he said when I answered. You filed. Last night. She's been served? Should be happening right about now. I'd arranged for service at 9 a.m. at the townhouse. Professional process server, already paid. Okay, a pause. You doing all right? I'm in a hotel room in Midtown eating vending machine pretzels for breakfast. I'm fantastic. The other packages? Delivered this morning. Another pause, longer this time. You know that's going to complicate things. Good. I mean, it might actually help us. Workplace affair, abuse of power dynamics, her boss, it's all leverage. but it's also going to make this uglier. It's already ugly, I said. I'm just making sure everyone sees it. I hung up before he could lecture me about strategy. At 9:47 a.m., my phone exploded. 3 calls from Jessica in 2 minutes. 4 texts, then a voicemail I didn't listen to. Then more texts. They served me at the house. You really filed for divorce? Without even talking to me. This is insane. I put the phone face down on the desk and opened my laptop. The book club email bothered me. Diane Fletcher canceling the April meeting 8 hours after I'd confronted Jessica. That wasn't coincidence. I pulled up Jessica's calendar again, the shared one I still had access to, at least until she thought to revoke it. Book club meetings going back 18 months. Some with flower emojis. Some without. I'd been tracking the pattern for weeks, but I hadn't cracked it yet. Meetings with flowers. January 15th, February 3rd, February 24th, March 10th, March 31st. Meetings without. January 8th, January 29th, February 17th, March 3rd, March 17th, March 24th. No obvious pattern in the dates. Not every other week. Not first and third Thursdays. Nothing that simple. I cross-referenced them with Robert's calendar. The screenshots I'd taken from Jessica's phone showed some of his appointments. The nights Jessica had book club with flower emojis, Robert had blocked time labeled dinner, client development. The nights without flower emojis, Robert's calendar showed nothing unusual. I sat back in the terrible hotel chair. Book club was real. I'd confirmed that. Diane Fletcher existed, hosted meetings at her Park Slope brownstone, actually discussed books with actual people. I'd surveilled 3 meetings personally. But some of those meetings, the ones with flowers, weren't just book club. My phone buzzed. Not Jessica this time. An unknown number. I answered. Is this... A woman's voice, tight with anger. Is this Jessica's husband? I sat up straighter. Who is this? Amanda Brennan. She said it like she was spitting something bitter. I got your package this morning. I said nothing. 28 years, she said. We've been married 28 years. 3 kids. I put him through business school. Her voice cracked. How long have you known? 2 weeks. 2 weeks. A bitter laugh. I've suspected for 6 months, maybe longer. You just confirmed it. I'm sorry. No, you're not. You wanted me to know. You wanted to blow everything up. She paused. The managing partner's got a package too? Yes. Good. The word came out hard and sharp. He should lose everything, just like I'm losing everything. She hung up. I set the phone down and stared at the beige wall. At 10:15 a.m., Kenneth called again. Brennan Architecture just contacted your wife's cell phone. I'm guessing they got the package. Probably. She's going to need a lawyer, a good one. This is going to get expensive for both of you. I know. The firm might terminate her. Workplace affair, especially with a superior. It's a liability issue. I didn't respond. You thought about that? Kenneth asked. If she loses her job, it affects the settlement calculations, her earning potential, spousal support. I don't want her money, I said. I want her to understand what she did. Yeah, well, the court doesn't care about feelings. It cares about assets and income. If she's unemployed when we finalize, then she's unemployed, Kenneth sighed. I'll draw up the initial settlement proposal. We're still looking at 6 months minimum before this is final. Probably longer if she contests. After he hung up, I pulled up the book club member list. 8 women. I'd researched all of them weeks ago. Diane Fletcher, host, Park Slope brownstone, married to a cardiologist, 2 kids in private school. Jessica, project manager, Brennan Architecture, cheating wife. Lauren Phillips, attorney at a mid-sized firm in Manhattan. Rebecca Grant, stay-at-home mom, Upper West Side. Melissa Torres, marketing director, some tech startup. Catherine Boyd, freelance graphic designer. Nina Patel, accountant. Vanessa Wright, real estate agent. I'd looked at their social media, their professional profiles, their public records. Nothing suspicious. Just 8 women who liked books and wine and complaining about their lives. But some of those meetings had flower emojis. And Diane had canceled April's meeting the morning after I confronted Jessica. I opened a new browser tab and searched for Diane Fletcher's address. Street View showed the brownstone, red brick, black iron fence, small front garden. I zoomed in on the garden. Roses, hydrangeas, tulips in the spring, peonies. The same flowers I'd pressed into Jessica's bookmark. My phone buzzed again. Another text from Jessica. Please call me. We need to talk about this like adults. I deleted it without responding. Then I opened a new document on my laptop and started typing. Timeline, book club analysis. Flower emoji meetings. 5 total over 3 months. Non-flower meetings. 6 total over same period. Hypothesis. Flower meetings indicate something beyond standard book club. Evidence needed. Attendee list for each meeting type. Location verification. Cross-reference with Robert's schedule. Other participants? I was missing something. The flowers meant something specific. Not just decoration in Diane's garden. Not just a cute emoji to mark calendar events. A code. A signal. I picked up my phone and opened the photos I'd taken of Diane's garden the night I'd stolen the flowers for Jessica's bookmark. Dozens of pictures, different angles, different flowers. Then I opened Jessica's Instagram, scrolled back through months of posts, her life in carefully curated squares, brunches, sunsets, book covers, selfies with coworkers, and flowers, posted on January 16th, February 4th, February 25th, March 11th, April verse, the day after each book club meeting marked with a flower emoji. Always the same caption, treating myself, always a bouquet, always from the same shop. I could see the distinctive wrapping paper, cream with gold edges. I zoomed in on the most recent photo. The bouquet from April 1st, the day after the March 31st book club meeting. Roses, pink and white, expensive ones, long-stemmed. In the background, barely visible, reflected in the glass vase. A hotel room. Not our townhouse. Not her office. A hotel room. The divorce was finalized on October 12th, 6 months after I walked out with a duffel bag and a folder full of evidence. Jessica didn't contest it. By then, there wasn't much left to fight over. Brennan Architecture terminated her employment 3 days after the managing partners received my package. Robert Brennan resigned 2 weeks later, though resigned was the polite word they used in the press release. Amanda took him for everything in their divorce: the house in Scarsdale, the vacation property in the Hamptons, primary custody of their youngest daughter who was still in high school, and enough alimony to fund a comfortable retirement. Jessica moved back to Ohio, to her parents' place in Columbus. Last I heard, she was working at a small firm there, making half what she'd earned in New York. We split the proceeds from selling the townhouse. She got her car. I got mine. Everything else we'd built together got divided by a judge who didn't care about flower emojis or pressed lobelia or hotel room reflections in glass vases. The book club thing? I never did figure it out completely. My best guess, based on fragments I pieced together from Lauren Phillips' divorce filing 6 months after mine, she left her husband around the same time, was that some of those meetings weren't about books at all. The flower emoji marked the nights when certain members brought guests, male guests, partners who weren't their husbands. Diane Fletcher's brownstone wasn't just hosting literary discussion. It was hosting something else entirely, a rotation, an arrangement. I never proved it, and I stopped trying after the divorce was final. Some questions don't need answers. I stayed at Westfield Technologies for another year, then took a position at a competitor in Boston. New city, new apartment, new life. The promotion to senior director felt like it had happened to someone else, in a different lifetime. I dated occasionally, nothing serious. Every time I started to trust someone, I'd remember Jessica's face across the dinner table at my parents' house, telling stories about her difficult clients while I held her hand, completely unaware. The memory would settle in my chest like a stone, and I'd pull back. Kenneth Price told me once during one of our final meetings that revenge doesn't heal anything. He was right. The satisfaction I felt watching everything collapse, Jessica's job, Robert's marriage, the exposure of whatever was happening at those book club meetings, it lasted maybe a week. After that, I was just a divorced man living in a hotel room, eating vending machine pretzels, wondering how I'd spent 12 years with someone I never really knew. The moral lesson, if there is one, isn't about trust or verification or surveillance. It's simpler and harder than that. You can document every lie, photograph every betrayal, build an airtight case that proves you were right and they were wrong. You can burn it all down and walk away victorious. But you still walk away alone. And late at night, in my apartment in Boston when I can't sleep and I'm scrolling through old photos from when we were happy, or when I thought we were happy, I wonder if knowing the truth was worth the cost of learning it. I still don't have an answer. What I do know is this. The champagne cork that hit our bedroom ceiling at 11:47 p.m. was the last moment I celebrated anything in that house. Everything after was just evidence collection and aftermath. A marriage reduced to timestamps and location data. Love converted into legal documentation. I got my promotion. I got my divorce. I got my revenge. I lost everything that mattered. Some victories feel an awful lot like defeat.